It is so good to be with you here this week. I am loving everything. I like being pushed and challenged for the sake of mission. We've just heard some amazing pastors and church leaders talk about church planting. And let's just be absolutely honest, church planting is not the most popular thing when it comes to the subject of evangelism and church growth within the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Because anytime I'm working with a church planter about planting a church, they hear this message constantly within their ear. Why plant another church when we have so many more that need help? Listen, we're going to talk about revitalization later on. Revitalization is important. 70 to 80% of our churches in the North American division are either plateaued or in decline. We need to save those churches. We need to do everything we can to do that. Part of my and Dr. Errol McLean's job is to equip the students at the seminary to pastor these churches, because those of you at church leaders, you give them the declining and plateauing churches. You don't give them the strong, thriving churches. So we're trying to prepare them to help revitalize those churches when they get in there. But we've identified that we need to more than double the number of churches that we have in the North American division in order to effectively serve and reach the communities and people of the North American division. That's assuming that we can revitalize the 70 to 80% of the others. If we can't revitalize those, then we need to plant even more churches. I don't know if you've heard this theme. It wasn't planned on, but there's this theme that's kind of been going throughout our entire time here, that an effective, growing, evangelistic church or church plant should be loving and serving their communities. And when we talk about church planting, as was said by Michael Lewis, we're not looking to just plant churches for ourselves. We're planting churches to love, serve, and reach communities. That's why we plant churches. And I just want to just stick a shout out to those conferences and unions that have a plan for church planting. There are a number that do. The Chesapeake Conference, the Texas Conference, the Washington Conference, the Northern New England Conference, the Potomac Conference. Now the Oregon Conference is now on board as far as we are hearing now. That's awesome. It seems like we have Washington, Oregon, Northern California. I don't know if any others have a strategy. Central's got something going on. Please send that to me. Let me know. We'd love to support you in any way that we can. We've got almost the entire East Coast, and we just got this big hole right in the middle. We'd love to be able to help you. I'd love to hear your strategy and plan to plant churches in that area. At the North American Division Evangelism Institute, we're here to partner with you in all things evangelism, including in church planting. Here's what we have found, that a lot of church planters find out about church planting. They get excited about church planting with all different kind of motives for church plants. Sometimes it's for not the most righteous reasons. Sometimes it's because they want to do something different. They want to reach some part of a community. Sometimes it's for their own status or whatever, but sometimes it's because they really want to reach people in a particular community, but they're not equipped to do so. And statistically, it's difficult to plant a church, right? Evangelists, how many of you evangelists can't stand it when somebody says evangelism doesn't work? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and when you challenge somebody to say, why doesn't it work? Why are you saying it doesn't work? We find out that the reason they say that is because it wasn't done correctly where they were at. They did nothing for years. They mailed out 50,000 brochures. None of the church members showed up, and we didn't reach anybody. Evangelism doesn't work. It's the same thing with church planting. Sometimes people fail in church planting. When people say church planting doesn't work, I just ask the same question. What is it you're doing? And we've sat down to investigate to see what is it that we can do to help church plants become more successful. And a group of us have gotten together, and at the North American Division Evangelism Institute included, we're partnering with others, and we've created this program called ACTS. Amen. ACTS is an acronym. I think it's cool. I didn't come up with ACTS, not my thing. I didn't create but I have the joy of working with it and equipping other people in it. But I think it's cool. Acts is an acronym, but I think it's kind of cool that the book of Acts is a church planting book. It's all about church planting. It's all about the mission of the church, leaving Jerusalem and planting churches throughout. I think that's a pretty cool thing. Acts is an important acronym that stands for assessment, coaching, training, and support. This is a service that we're providing throughout the North American Division. and we'd love to be able to partner with you. We found that when church planters have assessment, 400% greater likelihood of success. When church planters have coaching, 135, training, 250, support, 178%. When a church planter gets the idea that they want to go plant a church and they just go out on their own motive, they may be successful, but their odds of success are greater when they are a part of a cohort of other people learning and going through the experience together, and that is exactly what ACTS is. It stands for assessment, coaching, training, and sending. When we talk about assessment, we're talking about stopping and taking time to assess, should this person really plant a church? Is this the right time to plant a church? What is the context or community in which they're trying to plant this church? Is this the right community to plant this church? What are the motives for planting the church? And really help to determine. And sometimes when we go through assessment, we come to the conclusion, us and the church planter come to the conclusion, this isn't the right time for me. I need to wait another year. My current context will not free me up with the ability to be all in this. So assessment is a very valuable tool in that process. Coaching. Many pastors are on their own. Many pastors say they feel isolated. Church planters, even more so. Because all it takes is for somebody within a conference in a greater community to say they're going to plant a church, and all of a sudden they're immediately isolated from all the Adventist pastors in that general area. Because all they want to do is take people from my church. And they feel isolated, even though they're just fully committed to mission and actually want to partner with you to help reach their communities. And so we provide coaching for them on a regular basis, connecting with them and helping them process through the plan to plant a new church. Obviously, training. The training we provide is not a methodology-based training. It is a principle-based training. We have all different kinds of groups of people that are going through ACTS training. We have people who are going through who are planting rural white churches, inner city black churches, Spanish churches, second generation Spanish churches, island churches, Chinese churches, all different kinds of churches. We don't share this is the methodology. We share the principles, and it's the responsibility of the planter to contextualize it for their community that they're trying to reach. That's the training that we provide. And this training takes them through the process of planting a church, praying and recruiting, laying out the vision, activating their ministry, navigating worship, training, and sending. You'll notice that the navigating the worship is towards the end of the planting process. It's important that they develop a system of discipleship to reach their community with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's not just about us getting together, having our own kumbaya worship experience for ourselves. We're not planting churches for Adventists. We're planting Adventist churches to reach people in that community. We also break it down into 10 steps, and throughout the entire year of planting, the church planter begins not just learning how to do all these things, but they're given assignments to begin the process of that planting process. And then we send them. We don't just send them to plant the church. We are intentionally equipping the church planters to equip church planters. When you come to an ACTS module, the very first day you learn that you're not there to plant a church. Some of them scratch their head and say, wait a minute, I thought that's what ACTS is about. It's about me learning how to plant a church. No, we're here to equip you how to plant churches so that you can equip other people how to plant churches. This is not so that we can build up our own earthly kingdom and be written up in the Union magazine and be invited to E-Huddle to speak. We do this so that we can help equip other people to plant other churches who plant other churches so that more people will be prepared for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Principles of multiplication. This is my son, Ethan. I love my son. Anytime I get the opportunity to speak, I throw in an excuse to talk about my son. I am filled with so much pride for my son. I couldn't be more proud as a dad. I love him so much. When he was young, I started to really think through, what are my goals for my son? What do I want him to be? What do I want him to do? What kind of a person do I want him to be? Before he was born, his mother and I, my wife Andrea and I, made the commitment that we were not going to raise children. We were going to raise adults. There's a different mindset in training, right? Our goal was that when he moved out and started his own life and began his own path, that he would be mature enough to make decisions as an adult and wouldn't be dependent on us, which completely changed the parenting model that we were walking into when we initially got pregnant. In fact, we applied that model literally from day one. And I can say with great joy that my son is a mature, on his own, paying his own bills, in a completely different state, with a full-time job and an amazing girlfriend, and involved in a local church. My goal for him, some said, well, it was your goal to see him baptized and become a member of a church? Yes, but here's my goal. My goal, I will feel like I will have succeeded as a parent when his children come to me and say, Grandpa, will you baptize me? If his children come to me and say, Grandpa, will you baptize me? Then I'll feel like I have fully completed my responsibility as a parent. As pastors, church leaders, our goal is not to baptize people. We've heard that all this week. That's not our mission. The mission isn't to baptize people. The mission is to make disciples. And the process of disciple making requires us to help people to be discipled into a level of maturity that they are discipling others. Our mission is not to just baptize people, but to intentionally equip them to be disciple makers. And if we are intentionally discipling people who are discipling people, then we will have a greater cause of planting more churches. We will have people equipped to disciple others. If all of our church system is all designed around program-based, let's just do programs and ministries for us as Seventh-day Adventists, there's no need to have disciples. We've created consumers, people who want to come and watch and observe, people who say, listen, I want to come to your church, I'll return tithes and offerings so that you can do programs, and when you do programs, more people will come. And you know what happens when more people come? You get more money. And with more money, you can do more programs. And with more programs, you get more people. More people, you get more money. More money, you can do more programs. That is not the gospel commission. The gospel commission is to make disciples. That is our mission. Unfortunately, everything that we've been creating unintentionally, we've fallen into the trap of the church growth movement, and we've fallen into this idea that let's just try to get as many people here as possible, and we range success by the amount of tithe we bring in, the amount of baptisms that we have, and the number of people we have in attendance. And I'm not saying we shouldn't track those figures, but our mission is to make disciples. We can't even agree in this room on what a disciple is. Yet we all know that's our mission. One of the aspects of discipling is creating disciples who disciple others. When we are focused on making disciples who make disciples, then we are creating leaders that we can send, like Paul and Barnabas, out of Antioch to plant new churches. When we do Acts, we break it down into 4 modules. So when we come into a conference or a union, we will set up typically a year-long process, and we'll come in 4 times. A cohort is committed to coming to all 4 modules. We come into the first module, and we just focused on why we're planting. We're assessing the planter through that process, understanding what a healthy DNA is, what discipleship is, those kind of basic ingredients, and then we send them home with assignments, and they get regular coaching. They come back for the second module about a quarter of the year later, and we continue with the process of how to develop a core team, how to get the right people on your team that are about making disciples, and how to disciple your core team so that you're creating a healthy DNA from the beginning that's not about consumerism, but it's about disciple making. Then we come back for module 3, in which we talk about developing ministries and serving in that community, and how to be actively involved in that community and making a difference in that community, and ministries, key ministries of that church that surround your discipleship process. We come to module 4, where we talk about continuing to develop that core team and launching that new church, and then beginning the multiplication process. We encourage every one of our churches, if you're going to take up an offering on your grand opening, we want that offering to go to the next church plant, so that from the very beginning, we are instilling a need for planting. We have Acts cohorts throughout the entire world. Lotus them all here in the North American division. We've got Boston, New York, Baltimore. We now have Baltimore is now teaming up with the entire Columbia Union. So we got this going on here. 2 others in Washington, D.C. Southern Union is starting their Acts cohort next week. excited about that. I fly home tomorrow, teach class on Thursday, and fly down to the Southern Union so we can begin that Acts training in the Southern Union. And our hope is that we can have several other conferences beginning their Acts programs next year. Florida Conference, I hear, is on board. Puerto Rico, Inter-America, 2 in Texas. Praise God, Robin. We also have Washington. We just had our first Acts module there last week. Thank you, Tyler Long. And the Oregon Conference, I hear, is on board. Awesome, Oregon. Proud of you. And the Northern California, Las Vegas, Salt Lake, and we have room for many more. Here's what's the beauty of this. When we are equipping people to be church planters, we're equipping them to be equippers of church planters. So you not only go through the process of learning how to plant a church, but how to equip other people in church planting. It's a beautiful thing. Assessment, coaching, training, sending. If you're interested in being a part of the Acts modules, please reach out to me. I'm at the North American Division Evangelism Institute, NADEI.org. I'd be glad to connect with you and see what you could do. If you have somebody in your conference that wants to plant a church, you want them to be equipped, but you're not ready as a conference to support one, reach out to me. We can have you tag in with another Acts cohort somewhere else, and they can begin that process there. I believe in church planting. Amen. I love the Adventist church. I would not be a Christian today if it wasn't for a loving Seventh-day Adventist family that invited this homeless teenager into their home to become part of their family. I love the church. I love the church. I love the ones that are struggling. I love the ones that are declining. I love the ones that are thriving. I love the church. I believe in this church. And I think as many people as possible should understand this message and be prepared for the second coming of Jesus Christ. And the more communities we have that are actively serving and discipling people within their community, the more people that will be standing around that sea of glass with us when Jesus Christ returns. Thank you.